back. We figured we don't want to do those fancy toys and dreams. Number 26. What's so short? We don't know what's going to happen.
What about the death sentence? Daphne?
Okay, let's do Daphne. Okay, this is number 26. We're doing Tommy Daphne. Okay.
Terrible.
professional. Okay, pomp, and then where we go? We're just going straight to 3.
So we start with pomp, go back to Prince of Denmark, trumpet tunes air, Prince of Denmark, trumpet tunes air. Okay?
Okay, pomp, Prince of Denmark, trumpet tunes air.
Okay?
And then back to Prince of Denmark or pomp Serbians?
No, play
never go
pomp
back to
once.
Just one time.
Once.
Right.
One time, and then these other 3. Right. I'm gonna open the pages though, because I'm playing all of them. That's okay. It's the book's fault.
It is now my great pleasure to welcome all of you, distinguished guests, faculty, colleagues, families, friends, and members of the graduating class to the 2015 commencement exercises of the Yale Law School. We gather today to celebrate a moment of consequence in the lives of 207 JD candidates, 27 LLM candidates, 2 MSL candidates, and 6 JSD candidates. When these 242 individuals finish their academic requirements, when the final staple goes through the final paper, when the last examination is at last graded, they will be, quite simply, the finest new law graduates on the planet. All the music, all the marching, all the medieval badges and robes and ceremonies that surround this day are meant to mark this single decisive moment of high transition in the lives of these 242 graduates. And as with all such moments of transition, it is an occasion both to take stock of the past and to assess the bright but inscrutable future that lies before us. If we gaze backwards to the past, we can see that there is a long and a winding pathway that has led to this graduation. Members of the graduating class have had to accomplish a great deal to arrive at this moment. But it is important to stress at the outset that these accomplishments, however heroic, are not those of our graduates. Behind each and every one of our graduates is a story of family and friends, of parents who nourished and sacrificed, who hovered and who let go, of grandparents, uncles, and aunts who supported and sustained them, of brothers and sisters and cousins and friends who stood by them and with them, of partners and spouses and children and other loved ones who strengthened and inspired them. The real education of our graduates was earned long before they arrived here at the Yale Law School. We are newcomers in their lives, and we have had them in our care only for a moment. So, as we call to mind the past that has brought our graduates to this precious time, let us remember, first and foremost, those who truly made this moment possible, with the families and friends of the class of 2015, many of whom have traveled long distances to be here today. Please rise so we can welcome and thank you. And let us honor also the faculty of this law school who sit before you on this stage. On this stage is, by common acclamation, the finest and most influential law faculty in the world. They have worked hard to give you, members of the graduating class, a mastery of the law, so that the law might feel in your hands intelligible and familiar and responsive. And they have also, more importantly, offered you their for the law. And in that way, they have forever altered the horizons sail forward in your lives. So while they are here now, in this moment, assembled together, let us say to you all, thank you so much. And we might also take this moment to thank those many members of the Yale community who worked so hard to make your time among us comfortable and secure. They have rescued your computers. They've piloted you through the maze of our remarkable library. They've maintained our gem of a building. They've mailed out your many letters of recommendation. They've responded to your room reservation requests in all caps. And they have performed a myriad of other services of which you might or might not be aware. I want to give special thanks today to Deputy Dean Al Klavorik, who has worked so very hard and successfully to assemble a superb curriculum that is comprehensive and challenging and diverse and responsive. And I want to give special thanks to Deputy Dean Mike Wishney, whose dedication to the creation of really a magnificent program of experiential education is simply awe-inspiring. I want to thank Associate Dean Kathleen Overly, who has spent night and day tending to the many needs of our students. And Associate Dean Asharan Gappa, who has handled the requirements of your financial aid with tact and assurance. Where's Asha? I want to thank Assistant Dean Gordon Silverstein, whose tender care for our graduate students has been unrelenting. And our devoted and our patient registrar, Assistant Dean Judith Calvert, who has organized this day and who works harder than any of you can possibly imagine to make sure that your requirements are fulfilled so that, in fact, you will be able to graduate. Thank you, Judith. And finally, to Associate Dean Mike Thompson, whose inventiveness and attentiveness and sympathy for every concern, large or small, keeps this complex place running smoothly. Moments of transition like this hang suspended between the past and the future. They are comforting because they're familiar. They culminate everything that has gone before. But they are also bittersweet because something must end in order for change to take hold. In every ending is the challenge of a new beginning. And moments like this one here are therefore charged, in part with the excitement of new creation, but also in part with the vague disquiet of the unknown. In Burnt Norton, the poet T.S. Eliot observes, this is him speaking, "Time past and time future, what might have been and what has been, point to one end, which is always present." Present, we might say, in you, here, now, poised at the knife edge between what you have achieved over the past several years and what you will make of yourselves in the years to come. We connect time past, time future, and time present through stories. Narratives are how we suture together the disparate moments into a coherent whole. It is through stories that we know, in the knife edge of the present, how our past and our future are or should be tied together. And it is through stories that we continuously orient ourselves in this glistening, evanescent moment that is now, right now. And sadly, I want to say, I know something about what it means to lose the gift of possessing a narrative of that kind. About 2 months ago, for some inexplicable reason, a disc came loose in my back, and I collapsed in blinding pain. To my enormous regret, I was forced to miss these last sweet months of the year. But worst of all, I suffered a pain that was so searing that it threatened to obliterate my capacity to encompass it in a narrative. I could only feel the pain. And I found that when the pain destroyed my relationship to time in this way, it produced in me a kind of despair. The poet Emily Dickinson describes that kind of time and that kind of pain in this way. This is a poem of hers. She writes, "Pain has an element of blank. It cannot recollect when it began, or if there were a day when it was not, and it has no future but itself." Blank pain, pain outside of time, is mere desolation. But I also discovered in a hospital that when I could frame my pain with a narrative, when I could say to myself, for example, that my pain would grow better because of rehabilitation, or that the pain might be cured because of surgery, or even if I could only tell myself this story, that I would eventually learn to live with this pain, when I could construct a narrative of that kind, I could master even the worst suffering. And that's another way of saying that my experience of that pain changed when I was able to tell myself a story about it, when I could give it an intelligible meaning in which time present, the now, was connected to time past and time future. That point may sound to you elementary, but it has many deep implications. I have observed over the past year much real suffering among our students. The pain of Ferguson and now of Baltimore. The pain of what Kenji Yoshino in his Thomas lecture called covering, of disguising one's real self in order to fit in. The pain of economic inequality, or of isolation, or of gender stereotyping, or of mental health challenges, or of being thrown to the outside of the endless networking required for clerkships or other career rewards. And simply to state what I hope is obvious, the world outside these walls carries the potential for even worse suffering, from the earthquakes of Nepal to the bloodlands of Ukraine, from the fierce storms of an overheated planet to nuclear proliferation. Our world grows more dangerous and threatening every year. And the question is, how can we possibly deal with the potential for such suffering? I want to generalize from an important lesson that I myself learned from my own back. If the anxiety of these dangers overwhelms us, if we merely suffer blankly in their presence, we are lost. But if we respond by situating these threats, these dangers in time, which is to say by contextualizing them in narratives that unite time present with time past and time future, then we have the capacity to master them. Our experience of them will change. So the question is, how do we create such narratives? The great German literary critic Walter Benjamin, writing in 1939 about the poetry of Baudelaire, once contrasted two different ways of being in time. The first is the way that the gambler experiences time. For the gambler, time is divided into discrete segments: the next card, the next race, the next job, the next clerkship, the next government position, the next partnership. The gambler strives to predict and to control these things, and he thinks he is being strategic and calculating. But actually, each time the gambler rolls the dice, time begins anew. The second way to experience time is the opposite of this fragmentation. It is to unify time by creating a narrative. And Benjamin writes that the way to create this sort of narrative is simply to make a wish, which means to envision a different and a better future. Every true wish contains within it a story that unites time present with time past and time future. And such stories have the potential to integrate our lives. And that is why Benjamin writes this. He says, a wish is a kind of experience. if it is the right kind of wish, if it is a wish for something as distant and as unobtainable, say, as a shooting star, wishing on a shooting star, then a wish can accomplish something that is really, truly remarkable. It can fuse together the scattered fragments of your life into a coherent and an extended temporal arc. It can infuse the entirety of your life with integrity and purpose. And Benjamin's point is that this kind of wish, let's call it a true wish or a utopian wish, can deeply change the way that you experience your lives in the present. This is precisely the point that was stressed by the great German poet Rainer Maria Rilke in 1924 in this poem. He writes, "My eyes already touch the sunny hill, going far ahead of the road that I have begun. So we are grasped by what we cannot grasp. It has its inner light even from a distance and changes us, even if we do not reach it, into something else, which, hardly sensing it, we already are." In these lines, Rilke is telling us that your wishes may or may not be fulfilled. But if you find something worthwhile to wish for, and if you pursue that wish, it will change you into something else, something which you may potentially already be. Your wish will grasp you, even if you do not grasp your wish, and you will become the kind of person who lives in the light of your wish. In the unceasing fragmentation and displacements of our postmodern lives, it is not easy to become the sort of person who has a wish. It is far easier, as I discovered myself, to be simply overwhelmed by the disquiet of present pain and terror. And in so many ways, this disquiet virtually defines our present age. As far as I can tell, the poet who coined the phrase "the age of anxiety" was W.H. Auden in 1947. Auden, who was much influenced by Rilke, believed that anxiety in the modern world stems in part from our inability to imagine a distant and a desirable future. Instead, we lie trapped like the gambler in what Auden calls, this is Auden's phrase, "the present's unopened sorrow whose limits are what we are." When we are trapped in the present like the gambler, like the man with the slipped disc, we are subject to the anxieties associated with hopelessness and drift and isolation and panic and carelessness. We cannot look to an imagined future for solace and for strength, and we are easily thrown off course. We despair, we are overwhelmed. No matter what we accomplish, we cannot seem to find fulfillment. But why are we trapped in this oppressive present? Auden writes that it is because we have what he calls, this is his phrase, an error bred in the bone. He suggests that our failure to imagine a future occurs because, and I'm quoting him now, "Each woman and each man craves what it cannot have, not universal love, but to be loved alone." That is a profound thought. Some of our greatest leaders may indeed crave to be loved alone. They may yearn for the kind of electric charisma that eclipses everyone around them. And because this seems glamorous, you may also wish to shine in that way. But don't be fooled. That kind of charisma is fundamentally inhuman. The need to be loved alone is a seductive, misleading desire, a desire that is the opposite of a true wish. And why is that? That is because every true wish contains within it the seeds of an imagined future, and there is almost no future worth building that you can build alone. Our future is something we must construct together. No one exists alone, Auden writes. We must love one another or die. So if a narrative is to give your life resilience and strength, you must imagine a future in which you join with others to construct your dream. That is to say, every true wish contains within it a vision of community. an ideal of politics, of a shining city on a distant and a sunny hill. It is only through inhabiting wishes that we can master the terrors of police violence or global warming or international instability or economic collapse or economic inequality. And no matter how complex or impervious or painful the world may appear to you, you must find a way to imagine refashioning it, of making it responsive to your wish. And law is what makes such wishes possible. And that is because law is the precondition for every social enterprise. That is why Auden, in a very famous poem, oddly compares law to love. This is a very witty, very amusing poem, and I recommend that you read it. And in it, Auden considers, one by one, all the standard jurisprudential definitions of law, and he rejects each of them. Law, he says, is not the wisdom of the old, it is not the will of God, it is not the pronouncement of judges, it is not the loud, angry crowd. And Auden takes particular aim at the jurisprudential definition favored by professors who are legal realists. Auden writes this is in the poem. Yet law-abiding scholars write, law is neither wrong nor right. Law is only crimes punished by places and by times. Law is the clothes men wear anytime, anywhere. Law is good morning and good night. In the poem, Auden rejects each of these definitions of law, and instead he affirms strangely and tentatively that law is like love. He writes this, I'm quoting him now. Like love, we don't know where or why. Like love, we can't compel or fly. Like love, we often weep. Like love, we seldom keep. These are very difficult lines. Many scholars, some of them on this stage, have affirmed that law and love are opposites, that we require law only when we don't have love. But I read Auden to say something entirely different. I interpret him to say that for all its vagaries and betrayals, love is an essential and inescapable dimension of human life. One cannot be human without love. And I read Auden to say that law, like love, is also an essential and an inescapable dimension of human life. Without law, we cannot establish a common endeavor or build a common future. Without law, we cannot imagine a better community, and so we cannot escape from the prison of the present. We may weep for the injustice of the law, and we may violate the law, but we cannot fly from the law without simultaneously flying from what is best in ourselves. And so to lose faith in the possibility of law is to betray our own humanity. Without law, as without love, there can be no society worth wishing for on a distant falling star. And without that star, without that wish, you will be lost in the fragmented time of the gambler. You will be thrown back on yourself, and you will experience life as one damn card after another, one damn job after another, one damn threat after another. Your teachers and friends on this platform hope that during your time among us, we have taught you something about how to use law to achieve your own true wish. We hope we have initiated you into the practices of effective governance and illuminated for you the inner workings of institutions, the mysteries of incentives, the murky language of social values. And we hope we have also given you an understanding of the rule of law, which is one of civilization's great achievements. And we hope that you will remember that when law is severed from competence, it cannot long survive. But when law is indifferent to justice, it becomes an abomination. We hope that we have taught you that law is not merely a means of social coordination, but that, like love, law is indispensable for human flourishing. So my wish for you on this auspicious day is that you leave here with your own true wish, a wish that will give purpose and shape to your life. My hope is that you will have the competence and the confidence to pursue that wish, and that the pursuit will give you always a reason to look up from your books, from your career, from your taxes, from your pain, from your life, and to ask why things can or should be different. My hope is that, as my great predecessor, Dean Harold Coe, used to say, you will not die with your options open. When you leave here, you will become leaders in your chosen fields, and you will no doubt face problems that are in fact insoluble. But it is the true wish of all your teachers here on this stage that you may encounter the unimaginable adventures that lie before you with the same verve and intelligence, with the same unfailing self-respect, with the same moral courage, and with the same pleasure and delight that you have displayed during your time here among us. We place our faith in you to construct a new future for us all. So, in fact, your success is our wish. After graduation, come back and visit us, and when you do, bring stories. But for now, on behalf of this faculty, this community, and the proud profession of which you shall soon be a part, congratulations. We presently have 3 graduate degree programs at Yale Law School, which are graduate programs. The students in these programs have already been trained as professionals, and they have come to us seeking to engage in the advanced study of law. This year, 6 students will receive the high degree of Doctor of the Science of Law, the JSD degree. These are students who have previously received an LLM degree at Yale Law School and who have maintained their course of study in order to compose a rigorous dissertation, which constitutes a substantial contribution to legal scholarship. This year, 27 students will receive the degree of Master of Laws, the LLM degree. Each of these students has studied here during the past year, taking courses and working closely with faculty members in order to meet the strenuous requirements of this advanced degree. And finally, in the class of 2015, we have 2 students who will receive a Master of Studies in Law, the MSL degree. These students are professionals who are not lawyers and who, during the past year, have explored the relationship between law and another discipline. To present the candidates for these advanced degrees in law, I call upon their advocate, friend, and mentor, Assistant Dean Gordon Silverstein. The fragility of my back, for the reasons I have mentioned in my speech, my surgery was only 2 weeks ago, prevents me from greeting each student and congratulating them on behalf of the entire school. So our magnificent Deputy Dean, Al Klavoric, has kindly agreed to perform that delightful office.
Dean Post, Deputy Dean Klavoric, members of the faculty, honored guests, members of the class of 2015. It is my high honor and distinct privilege to present to you the candidates for graduate degrees from the Yale Law School. For the degree of Doctor of the Science of Law, Isar Berger, Jorge Andres Contessa, Farshad Godusi, Adrian Kunzler, Shitong Kiao, Esteban Restrepo, Laura Saldivia. Yun Jin Shin. Scott Mark Stevenson. For the degree of Master of Law, Cornelis Jaap Wouterby. Ofra Blok. Juliana Bonacorsi de Palma. Damiano Max Canapa. Violeta Canaves. Manuel Andres Casas Martinez. Elizabeth Chan. Rafael Nicolas, I'm sorry, jumping the gun. Andreas Jörg Engel. Rafael Nicolas Fassel. Samantha Godwin. Johanna Maria Goulart. Alishka Holbova. Lani Inverarity. Yuvraj Joshi. Jiang Feng Li. Jiang Zhi Li. Asaf Lubin. Elitsa Mihailova. Benjamin James Melius. Yuval Naim. Dominic Rennert. Neha Brabarchar Taishit. Anna Cristina Tovar. Mariana Velasco Rivera. Joanna May Vincent. Si Tsung. Angela Zorro Medina. And for the degree of Master of Studies in Law, Kevin Andrew Escudero. Melissa Beth Hensel. Congratulations.
In the class of 2015, 207 students will receive the degree of Juris Doctor, the JD degree. To earn this degree, students have had to complete 3 years of difficult coursework, as well as to undertake substantial and sustained analytic writing under faculty supervision. To present the candidates for this degree, I now call upon our Associate Dean of Student Affairs, Kathleen Overly, who has served our students with compassion and wisdom, and whom we shall surely miss after this year. Once again, the fragility of my back prevents me from greeting each student and congratulating them on behalf of the school, and so once again, Dean Al Klavorek has kindly agreed to do this office.
Dean Post, Deputy Dean Klavorek, members of the faculty and administration, graduates, and honored guests. It is an honor for me to present the candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor. Zachary George Facer Abramson. Yusuf Nabil Abu Garbia. Adam J. Adler. Samuel F. Adrians. Celine Akan. Joshua Peter Andresen. Ariella Claudia Anhalt. Irina Anta. Sean Michael Aronson. Zachary C. Arnold. Anna Beth Olson Ahrens. Bita Assad. Jonathan Isaac Adkins. Janae Bakar Ayers. Kira Maria Ayo Caros. Amar Chopra Bakshi. David Paul George Barilari. Emily Jane Barnett. Rachel Bayevsky. Christine Ellen Beckerly. Jason Christopher Bertoldi. Matthew Samuel Blumenthal. Matthew Butzo. Dustin Jacobs Brockner. Megan Danielle Browder. Thomas Nelson Brown. Trinity A. Brown. William Winston Bruno. John C. Calhoun. Elizabeth Rose Chow. Victor Chu. Connor James Clark. Phoebe Shotwell Clark. William G. Clayman. Allison Ann Cohen. Marguerite B. Colson. Jordana Alter Confino. John Joseph Cooper. Ryan W. Cooper. Leslie Nicole Couvillon. Marcus James Curtis with his sons Lucas and Liam. Charles Shannon Dameron. Allison Christine DeVito. Allison Marie Day. Corey James DeClark. Rachel Williams Dempsey. Anna Natalia Diakin. Michael Joseph DiRamo Jr. Courtney Lynn Dixon. Alexander Maxwell Gerasi. Allison Elaine Drutchess. Gilad Edelman. Vera Edelman. Matthew Benjamin Eisenson. Leslie Claire Esbrook. Kimberly Diane Farboda. Nicole Fearon. Benjamin Andrew Field. James Anglin Flynn. Elizabeth Vanetta Ford. Edward Gellis Fox. Elliot Friedman. Robert Anthony Fuentes. Nathan Gadd. Reuven Paul Garrett with his children Itamar and Ayala. Jacob C. Goldberg. Rose Carmen Goldberg. Aaron Mark Goldzimmer. Allison Milio Gorsuch with her son Silas. Benjamin Walker Graham. Raphael Jeffrey Carlisle Graybill. Jenny C. Gu. Matthew Guy Hallgren. Nicholas Aaron Handler. Catherine Clark Harris. Natalie Jean Hausneck with her children Parker, Cataline, Mason, and Rory. Satya Henderson. Daniel Eric Hertzroyfe. Alexandra Jillian Hess. Jillian Schaefer Hewitt. Miriam Reisner Hinman. Jordan Chandler Hirsch. Nicholas Aaron Hodges. David Michael Holcomb. Megan Kathleen Houlihan. Kyan James Hudson. Jessica Lee Hunter. Kwanyong Jin. Sunghwan Jin. Veronica R. Jordan Davis. Rachel Lynn Judd. William Emmanuel Kalema. Grace Cow. Jesse Meeker Kaplan. Emma Moffett Kaufman. Noah Medvedow Casis. Mark William Kelly. Alana Benita Yonia Kambabazi. Matthew Nicholas Kemp. Young-hee Kim. Samuel Miller Kleiner. Caitlin Brooke Conkle. Philip Gotlaba. Claudia Dorothea Kraft. Lucas W. Lollinger. Michael McCarty Lane with his daughter Autumn. Whitney Angel Leonard. Joshua Mitchell Levin. Carlana Mayakoska Lewis. Brian Matthew Lipschutz. Zachary Daniel Lisco. Yang Yang Liao. Olivia Luna. Bert Yenchia Ma. James Alexander Edward McPherson. Catherine Nicole Madison. Kirsten Mary McGuire. Lunar Mai. Nicholas Peter Makarov. Catherine Tilden Mammal. Eric Mayer Margulies. Harrison Douglas Marks. Diego Matamoros. Rebecca Taryn Matsumura. Virginia Ruth McCalmont. Kara Lee McClellan. Alexandra Lee McKenney. Jennifer Ann McTiernan and her daughters Rhea and Daniela. Alexandra Sage Messiter. Megan Owen McCorsky. Christopher Paul Million. Benjamin Eli Moskowitz. Christian James Mott. Jordan Xavier Navarrete. Joseph T. Naraki. Erica Jackal Newland. Robert Louis Nightingale. Maya Hodis Newland. Luke J. O'Brien. Natana O'Brien. Temadayo Opeyemi Ojusholu. Ifanichiku Victor Akene Ojukwu. Dennis Michael Orutsky. Amanda Holly Parsons. Ryan T. Podolsky. Julian James Zuba Polaris. Joseph Pominowski. Devin Erickson Porter. V. Chai Oliver Prentice. Lisa Elizabeth Roddert. David Matthew Rance. Daniel Gerard Randolph. Matthew Zachary Reed. Jinju Richards. Stanley Eric Richards. Adriana Zaccardi Robertson. Yenise Rodriguez. Alix Rogers. Daniela Rohr. Mark David Romer. Raul Alejandro Ruiz. Carl William Rush. Lauren Jane Solomon. Eric Gerard Sam. Jessica Marie Samuels. Alicia Sanchez Ramirez. Joseph Meyer Sanderson. Michael Reed Schmidt. Joel Daniel Schumacher. Samuel Conrad Scott. Alex Setzafont. Rima Barat Shah. Sopan B. Shah. Andrew G. Shipley. Jacob Fatula Siegel. Noah Nathan Simmons. Nikki Singh. Matthew Gregory Sipe. William Hosmer Smith with his children Elliot and Elizabeth. Shai Moshe Sokolo Silverman. Matthew Halen Specht. Eric Foster Stegmiller. Brian David Sweeney. Ruth M. Swift. Alexander M. Tabloff. Richard Ran Tao. Alexander T. Taubes. Sam Typin Bermeo. Lillian Margarita Timmerman. Daniel Ronald Townsend. Mordechai Nadavia Triger. Allison Kate Turbeville. Brianna Megan Van Can. Eric Andrew Van Nostrand. Julie Michelle Virov. Megan Claire Waxpress. Nicholas A. Wallace. Deborah Navik-Warshawski. John Way. Joshua Dove Wise. Caitlin Elizabeth Wellborn. Ted Wojcik. Michael Rio Wright. Lucy Yang. Manjaya Yang. Jiachen Yu. Jacqueline Ewan. Linda Zhang. Hanbing Zhang. William Nyasha Zichao. Congratulations.
Each year, the graduating class elects a member of the faculty to speak at their commencement. And this year, they have made a very wise choice. The class of 2015 has selected as its speaker Daniel Markovits, who is the Guido Calabrese Professor of Law. Daniel received his A.B. summa cum laude from Yale, where he won a Marshall Scholarship to study econometrics at the London School of Economics and at the University of Oxford. He returned to New Haven in 1997 and enrolled at this law school, during which time he simultaneously worked toward, and in 1999 was awarded, a doctorate in philosophy from Oxford. He received his JD the following year, after which he clerked on the Second Circuit for the great judge and former dean, after whom Daniel's chair is named, Guido Calabrese. And we were wise enough to hire Daniel the year after that. Daniel's works reflects the diversity of his talents. His writings range from contracts to legal ethics, from distributive justice to corporate law to democratic theory. In each area, his guiding question has been how law can be structured to promote respectful human cooperation, even among those who hold drastically different worldviews. Professor Markovits discovers the possibility for such cooperation in the oddest places. For example, in contracts between self-interested buyers and sellers, in litigation between adversary disputants, and in political competition between opposing parties. In each case, Professor Markovits argues, interactions that on first glance appear entirely competitive actually contain elements of mutual respect that can be harnessed to produce a fairer and more inclusive social order. In a world of pervasive and all too often facile interdisciplinarity, Daniel is one of those extremely rare persons who is actually a true polymath. His work is exceptional, both in its breadth and its depth. He is expert in disciplines ranging from mathematical economics to the common law of contracts, from philosophical theories of justice to legal ethics. And if Yale is a faculty that refuses to recognize the sanctity of traditional disciplinary lines, Daniel represents the essence of the intellectual audacity and mastery of this place. But he also exemplifies this institution's soul in another dimension. One of our oldest and most distinguished faculty members observes of Daniel that, and I'm quoting him now, "It is a mystery how anyone could be so tall, bald, fierce-looking, and yet in fact be so kind." More than anyone I know, Daniel has a great soul. He cares deeply about the well-being of his friends, his students, his colleagues, and this institution. And he is virtually constituted by his empathy, generosity, and respect for others. And this has made Daniel a kind of midwife for what is best in his friends and colleagues and students. He helps each of us accomplish what we most dearly would like to achieve. A first-year student who was in his small group this fall said it best. I'm quoting the student. The student said, "Professor Markovits has strong, even radical political views, but I only learned that after I pushed him really hard in office hours, yet you'd never know it from his teaching. He engages everyone's ideas, challenges them to develop and support their own views, even those with which, it turns out, he personally disagrees." Daniel represents the best of Yale, both in his care for those around him and in his care for the common good. And he has an unusually keen perception of the common good because he also possesses an extremely rare combination of profound intellectual rigor and personal modesty. Samuel Johnson, an English essayist, once wrote, quoting him, "Integrity without knowledge is weak and useless, and knowledge without integrity is dangerous and dreadful." Few understand and live that credo more fully than Daniel Markovits. For him, a commitment to truth and a commitment to justice are inseparable. He challenges each of us to approach the world with concern for the rigor and moral consequences of our principles. And his precision might be mistaken for disinterest, but it is not. It is quite the opposite. Compassion might be a more accurate description. Daniel is filled with the kind of compassion that is informed by a sense of what is actually best for all concerned. Compassion, one might say, the way a superb physician or lawyer might be compassionate. Compassion that is discerning and deep rather than sentimental and shallow. Daniel stands out because of his compassion, integrity, and rigor. He stands out as a teacher and as a friend. He stands out as a scholar and as a colleague. And he stands out for his distinctive vision of law as a medium in which we might, just might, create justice in the midst of our collective and fallen human condition. So it's my deep pleasure to introduce this year's commencement speaker, Professor Daniel Markovits.
Thanks, Robert, for that immensely exaggerated introduction. And thanks enormously to the marvelous Yale Law School class of 2015 for inviting me to speak here. It's been a pleasure, just a real pleasure to teach you, and it's a privilege to address you now. The dean runs a tight ship, but nevertheless, news gets out here, and countless conversations with you have made vivid that although this really is a marvelous occasion, your mood isn't simply triumphalist. You've seemed to me not just celebratory, but also contemplative. I'll therefore take this opportunity, this point of inflection in your lives, to offer a diagnosis of your and our collective condition, not to propose a cure, but much more modestly, in the hope that the diagnosis shines a new light on your own introspection. As the dean has just observed, you are, by acclamation, the finest new law graduates in the world. I don't rehearse this praise just as a bromide to set a mood and swell a speech's emotional progress. Rather, I'll take the fact of your excellence as my starting point today, and then recover its causes and pursue its consequences. Some of these are bright and happy. Others lower more darkly, both over the world and over your distinctive futures. It will be the task of your generation to disperse these clouds and to reclaim the sunshine, including for yourselves. When I say that you're the country's best new lawyers, I assert a concrete, determinate, and determinable fact, and a fact whose demonstration has dominated a large portion of your lives for a very long time. Consider how you got to Yale. In the autumn of 2011, perhaps 75,000 candidates applied to American law schools. Perhaps 3,000 of these applied to Yale. The law school takes admissions very seriously. 3 faculty members independently evaluate each file. And following this process, Yale admitted about 8% of JD applicants. Our LLM program similarly admits only about 9% of those who apply. Finally, almost 9 out of every 10 people whom we admit, which is to say virtually everyone, eventually enrolls. In other words, you're sitting here today because you ranked among the top 0.3% of a massive meritocratic competition, and one in which all the competitors conspicuously agree about which is the biggest prize. The admissions competition that brought you here wasn't an aberration or an isolated moment, moreover. Rather, most of you, although not all, came to the law school from highly selective colleges. Acceptance rates at Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, and Yale colleges, to pick some familiar examples, have also averaged around 8% in recent years. And not all of you, but again most, came to college from highly competitive high schools, and indeed in many cases from highly selective elementary schools and even preschools. A friend who teaches at Harvard recently wrote to me that his obviously charming twins were rejected from all 19 preschools to which they applied. So our admissions process, in all its patterns of planning and trimming, its rituals of stage-managed self-presentation, its rhythms of ambition, hope, and worry, was for you a familiar rite. For your entire lives, you've studied, worked, practiced, trained, and drilled, and then you've been inspected. And finally, you're sitting here after all, you've been selected. Nor did the training and competition end when you arrived here. People, including me, are fond of saying, perhaps a little prayerfully, that the rat race ends at Yale Law School's door, but you don't believe it. More important, you act as if you don't believe it. You do almost whatever is necessary to produce, to continue to distinguish yourselves, to learn, to shine. There's a sense in which you're right, or at least reasonable, to stay in the rat race. You all know the list of plums that you're competing for, and you agree astonishingly widely which are sweetest. This intensifies your ongoing competition. The clerkships, executive branch posts, public interest jobs, elite law firm partnerships, and professorships that you overwhelmingly most want, all have hundreds of aspirants for each opening. A pervasive, effortful, and studied competition thus dominates and even overwhelms virtually every year of the first 3 decades of an elite American professional's life. The competition has become so ingrained that I imagine it's hard for you to imagine life without it. But the competition is new. It's a striking innovation in American economic and social life, a stark departure from past practice. Even Yale Law School once admitted nearly 1/3 of those who applied, and by shockingly casual means. A mid-century graduate recently reported that he came here after Jack Tate, who was then dean of admissions, told him at a college fair, straightway and on the basis of a single conversation, "You'll get in if you apply." Things began to change in the 1960s. At Yale College, President Kingman Brewster opened Yale to merit over birth, saying that he did not, and these are his words, intend to preside over a finishing school on Long Island Sound. Brewster replaced the entire admissions office staff at once with a new staff that increased the incoming class's SAT verbal score by 100 points within a year. Once the meritocratic genie escaped its bottle, moreover, it grew inexorably, and it continues to grow ever stronger. The admissions competition at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford colleges is today 3 times as intense as it was just 20 years ago. The competition to get into Yale Law School is 4 times as intense as it was at mid-century. So you've reached this day by winning again and again at an unprecedentedly demanding and single-minded competition. It makes sense, therefore, to ask what victory brings. Some good and even wonderful things. Others are less wonderful. But we'll begin with the good. First, this is good. You join a community really suffused with astonishing energy and talent. This shows itself in the ordinary, everyday life of the school. Your skill and dedications as students make teaching here almost effortless. You obliterate the line between pedagogy, properly so called, and ordinary communication. It really is a privilege for all of us to be able to sit and stand in front of students regularly who have the property that if one explains something moderately clearly, they understand it. You have no idea. Your immense talents also show themselves at exceptional moments. And a really powerful and moving example is the die-in demonstration that you organized last winter in the wake of police killings in Ferguson, Missouri, and on Staten Island. You assembled over 500 people and over 30 organizations to concerted, forceful, insistently demanding yet responsible public action on short notice and at a time of great distress. Set aside for a moment the rightness of the end and marvel at the incredible effort and talent required to marshal those means. Second, your successes bring you immense wealth and status. First-year associates in New York, as you likely all know, today earn over $160,000 a year. A law firm now exists that generates profits per partner exceeding $5 million annually, and fully 70 firms now generate more than $1 million of profits per partner every year. These vast sums are also new. Elite lawyers' real incomes have roughly tripled in the past half-century, which is more than 10 times the rate of income growth experienced by the Moreover, this explosion in elite lawyers' incomes is not a or even isolated phenomenon. Instead, it fits into a wider pattern of rising elite labor incomes across our economy. You probably know that the share of total national income going to the top 1% of earners has roughly doubled in the past 3 decades. But it's perhaps less familiar that fully 4/5 of that increase comes from rising wages paid to elite labor. And it may be more surprising still to learn that the top 1% of earners, and indeed even the top 1/10 of 1%, today owe fully 4/5 of their incomes to their labor. That's unprecedented in all of human history. American meritocracy has created a state of affairs. The richest person out of every 1,000 overwhelmingly works for a living. This perhaps explains the otherwise incomprehensible measure of agreement among aspirants for elite training about which plums are most desirable. Finally, the immense incomes on offer to you commingle with high social status. The older hereditary caste order for centuries imposed a social taint on those who work not from passion or for exploit or as a calling, but work industriously for wages. But that stigma, which remained at mid-century, has today been entirely erased. More directly and immediately, elite lawyers' incomes, including when diluted by sabbaticals from private public service, will place you comfortably above the economic dividing line that comprehensively separates the rich from the rest in an increasingly unequal America. Perhaps most critically, your lawyerly skills will finance training your children through private schools and myriad other enrichments to thrive in the hyper-competition that you have yourselves, in effect, just won. This, then, is where things stand. We've become a profession and a society constituted by meritocracy. Massively intensified and massively competitive elite training meets massively inflated economic and social rewards for elite work. You, in virtue of sitting here today, belong to the elite, to the new, superordinate, working class. This structure, whatever its virtues, also imposes enormous costs. Most obviously, it's a catastrophe for our broader society, for the many, the nearly 99%, who are excluded from the increasingly narrow elite. There's an irony here. Brewster embraced meritocracy consciously in order to defeat privilege. Under the prior regime, pedigree so dominated university admissions that the privileged excruciatingly underperformed once on campus. At Yale, for example, the traditional feeder prep schools, which accounted for perhaps a quarter of the class, were underrepresented in Phi Beta Kappa by a factor of nearly 20 to 1. William F. Buckley, Jr., in seeking to mock meritocracy shortly after Brewster's reforms, instead presented an object lesson in the unfairness that meritocracy sought to redress. "You will laugh," he wrote in attacking Brewster's admissions revolution, "but today it is true that a Mexican-American from El Paso High with identical scores on the achievement test and identically ardent recommendations from the headmaster has a better chance of being admitted to Yale than Jonathan Edwards XVI from the St. Paul's School." Just so, the meritocrat replies. But although it was once the engine of American social mobility, meritocracy today blocks equality of opportunity. The student bodies at elite colleges once again skew massively towards wealth. Students from households in the top quarter of the income distribution outweigh those from the bottom quarter by 14 to 1. And students from the top quarter outweigh the middle two quarters combined, the entire American middle class, by nearly 3 to 1. The skew towards wealth at the most elite universities is almost inconceivably greater still. At Harvard College and here at Yale Law School, two places where students have skillfully and bravely compiled data that their universities suppress, as many students come from households in the top 1% as from the entire bottom half of the distribution. These facts will shock, and they're designed to shock, but a moment's clear reflection should render them unsurprising and even inevitable. The excess educational investment over and above what middle-class families can provide that children born to a typical 1%er household receive is equivalent economically to a traditional inheritance of between $5 and $10 million per child. Exceptional cases always exist, as some of you sitting here prove. But in general, children from poor or even middle-class households can't possibly compete when they apply to places like Yale with people who've imbibed this massive, sustained, planned, and practiced investment from birth, or even in the womb. And workers with ordinary training can't possibly compete in the labor market with super-skilled workers possessed of the remarkable training that places like Yale Law School provide. American meritocracy has thus become precisely what it was invented to combat: a mechanism for the dynastic transmission of wealth and privilege across generations. Meritocracy now constitutes a modern-day aristocracy of a kind, purpose-built for a world in which the greatest source of wealth is not land or factories, but human capital, the free labor of skilled workers. This observation refocuses the argument on you, on the modern-day aristocrats. Now, you are not, nor for that matter am I, natural objects of moral or political sympathy. Nevertheless, the system does not serve you well either. To begin with, life at the top today requires immense, sustained effort, extraordinarily hard work. This also is new. In 1962, the American Bar Association could confidently declare that there are approximately 1,300 fee-earning hours per year available to the normal lawyer. Yeah. Today, by contrast, a major law firm pronounces with equal confidence that a quota of 2,400 billable hours, quote, if properly managed, unquote, is, quote, not unreasonable. Billing 2,400 hours in a year requires working from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., 6 days a week, without vacation or sick days, for every week of the year. Nor are these Stakhanovite hours the peculiar property of large private practice. Elite public interest lawyers, elite government lawyers, and even elite law professors all work hours that would have been thought unimaginable because degrading by an earlier American elite that constituted itself self-consciously as a leisure class. Today, they're a badge of honor. When I asked my professional responsibility class how many of them had once sent an email, either late at night or early in the morning, in order to demonstrate their busyness, 2/3 of the hands went up. And then someone told me there's an app for that. Now, embracing these long hours reflects an adjustment to a new economic necessity. A rich landowner might extract rents from his estate idly as a rentier. But where the source of a person's wealth is her human capital, her skills, she can't get income except by mixing this capital with her own contemporaneous labor. Nevertheless, these hours, just by their flat, dispassionate, unyielding length, inflict a heavy human burden on those who work them. The imaginative requirements of living as a superordinate worker impose a second and profound burden on the new elite, a burden whose full weight you are the very first generation to feel. The social and economic caste order in which we're now embedded, including through our celebrations today, demands that you comprehend yourselves on instrumental terms. Your own talents, training, and skills, your self-same persons, today constitute your greatest assets, the overwhelmingly dominant source of your wealth and prestige. To promote your eliteness, to secure your caste, you must ruthlessly manage your training and labor. Moreover, and you're the first generation in this position, you've had to do this, to act as asset managers whose portfolios contain yourselves for your whole lives, certainly as long as you can recall. To manage an asset not for its own sake, but rather as a means to an end, is to alienate oneself from that asset's true nature and intrinsic value. The older rentier elite might administer its lands and factories in this way without bearing any significant cost. But administering one's capacities, one's own person, in this instrumental mode is another thing entirely. To live in this way is quite literally to use oneself up. Such a life proceeds under a pervasive shadow. At its worst, it squanders the capacity to set and pursue authentically embraced, intrinsically valued goals. Even at its best, this life involves deep alienation. Finally, the choices that you faced again and again over the course of your lives have trained you to measuring your life in this way, as with coffee spoons. It can seem, with warrant, as if there is no alternative to the bright, unreal path that has led you here. Once more, the elite should not, they have no right to, expect sympathy on this account from those who remain excluded from the privileges and benefits of high caste. And yet the human burdens of life as a rentier of one's own human capital remain real and weighty. I believe from our many conversations that they explain why you approach our celebrations today in a contemplative mood. So this is where we've arrived. We've constructed a gilded cage that ensnares the rich and excludes the rest. What then is the way forward? I wish that I knew. I could tell you, and I would mean it, that when you find an opportunity to trade a little money or status for a lot of freedom, you should take it. You should take it every time. But that thought, although honest and heartfelt, is a chicanery. It's akin to insisting that the rat race is over. The fact remains, for each of you individually, all the forces that have brought you to this point remain in play. Every incentive is wrong. But the broader picture is more hopeful. The new aristocracy promotes human flourishing for no one, certainly not for the excluded rest, nor even for the ensnared rich. We're trained to think of economic inequality as presenting a zero-sum game, to suppose that redistribution to benefit the bottom simply must burden the top. But this is not such a case. Reforms that democratize training and talent would benefit everybody. Such democratic reforms would restore the bulk of Americans to full participation in an economic and social order from which they have been for several decades now increasingly excluded. And democratic reforms invite the elite, you all, to accept an almost costless diminution in wealth and status in exchange for a massive, precious increase in leisure and liberty, a reclaiming of your authentic selves. The problem remains, of course, how to make the global trade, how to reestablish a democratic social order. Again, I don't know, but I do know that a winning trade, winning for everybody, exists. And I also know that you, with your vast talents, enormous discipline, and immense energy, are better placed than anyone else in our social order to conceive and to broker the deal. You should keep a reborn democratic equality always in mind as you go forth, in your small decisions as well as your large ones. You should support and sustain one another whenever you choose equality and freedom over caste and wealth, for yourself and for others. And you should demand that Yale Law School loyally supports you as you make these choices. The democratic project has no better midwife than you, and so much turns on your efforts now, including, not least of all, your own futures. Thank you, and Godspeed.
Thank you, Daniel. Traditionally, at the graduation of the Yale Law School, we conclude our ceremony with a surprise speaker who is, customarily, the person on whom Yale University has chosen to confer an honorary doctorate of laws. But this year, as you saw this morning, Yale University has not conferred this degree on anyone. And so we are very lucky today to conclude with a few words, a few surprise words from someone who represents an authority higher even than that of an honorary degree recipient. For our speaker today is a member of the Yale Corporation, the very body empowered to confer honorary degrees. It is difficult to believe that a scant 17 years ago, our speaker was sitting where you are sitting right now. She graduated from this school in 1998, and the path of her career since has been nothing less than meteoric, culminating this last November when she was elected the first woman governor of our neighbor to the east, the great state of Rhode Island. Today, we are lucky indeed to have with us Governor Gina Raimondo, and our good fortune is not merely, I would say, or even primarily due to her spectacular, but rather to the fact that she models for each of us what it means to believe passionately in effective civic engagement. In a world of zealous partisan political disputes, in a world where rhetoric seems constantly to subdue reality, Governor Raimondo believes that we can and we should face hard issues on the basis of commonly established facts. She believes that honest debate can actually alter opinions, that facts matter, that reasons matter, and that politics can be a forum for education as well as for disagreement. And it is in her character to pursue what she believes is right rather than to take refuge in what is merely comfortable. I hope that you have internalized these very values during your brief time here at this school. They are values necessary for citizenship in a diverse land like ours, and they are especially essential to those of you who would serve the public in a public capacity. Of course, we can't take all the credit for the remarkable character and commitments of Governor Raimondo. She did graduate from Harvard College in 1993, and she did receive a DPhil in sociology from Oxford, where she was a Rhodes Scholar. And she did, after graduation, go on to found Rhode Island's first venture capital firm. But in 2010, she entered the political arena, elected overwhelmingly as Rhode Island's general treasurer. And in that post, she decided to face what was heretofore unspeakable, what was heretofore systematically swept under the rug, which was the underfunded state of Rhode Island's public pension system. Governor Raimondo believed that our social safety net would not survive for the future without changes, but she also believed that our safety net was worth saving. And she tackled that conundrum with what has become her trademark grit and pragmatism. She did not shy away from public meetings with angry voters. And while many politicians treat popular opinion as an exotic beast to be alternately baited and feared, Governor Raimondo did the patient work of drawing individual constituents to her views. She used the persuasive skills of a lawyer to convince Rhode Islanders that the changes she advocated were necessary and therefore desirable. And in that process, she became, in the words of the national press in 2014, and I'm quoting now, that rare public servant who wants to use her office to actually solve major public problems. Even in so young a career, Governor Raimondo has exemplified already that courage of mind and of spirit that sustain any life worth living, but most especially any public life. She has been brave, and she has pursued her truth unflinchingly. And I hope that we can say the same of each of you as you begin to face the challenges of life beyond these walls. So it is a pleasure and an honor to welcome back to the Yale Law School Governor Gino.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Post. Thank you and congratulations. Congratulations to the graduates, and a big thank you to the parents and brothers and sisters and grandparents and spouses and friends who were with you at every step of the way and who are here with you today. It is fantastic. It wasn't that long ago that I sat right there, 17 years. Although on my graduation it was pouring rain, so I'm delighted to see you've made the decision to move indoors. Anyway, it wasn't that long ago, and so I know, I have a very real sense of how hard you've worked and how much you've pushed yourselves and how many sacrifices were involved to get you to this point today. And now, of course, you're off to make your mark in the world, on to clerkships or Wall Street or law firms or whatever you choose to do, and it will all be there for you. Because of this Yale Law School degree, every opportunity will be there for you. In fact, it's probably why you endured 3 winters in New Haven. But that was a good thing to do, and the opportunity is boundless. And I'm sure you're sitting there right now and you're saying to yourself, how do I go to a law firm that has the very best colleagues? Or which position in government, federal government service, or which clerkship will give me the best experience? Where will I learn the most? How will I be challenged the most? Where am I going to get the best career and the best experience and the most interesting work? And those are all good questions to ask. But I want to suggest to you today that in addition to asking those questions at this point in your career and throughout your career, that you don't let yourself fall into the temptation, the very natural temptation, of asking yourself just what you want and what's interesting to you. I'm going to suggest that you ask a different question. I want you to ask the question, where am I needed? Where am I needed to go? And you just heard from your professor so eloquently one place you're needed to go, which is to tackle the problem of income inequality. That is where you're needed to go. And in fact, it's up to you to make that decision. Income inequality, gender inequality, racial inequality, social justice. Ask the question, where am I most needed? And then answer that and go do that. Because let me tell you the reality right now. You have an obligation to serve. By virtue of the privilege and opportunity and talent that you have an obligation to serve in your way at some point in time in your career. And here's the bad news. If you don't, If you opt out of that responsibility, these problems won't get fixed. So it's on you in a real way to bear the burden to answer the call to service. And if you do commit yourselves to go where you're most needed and tackle the most challenging and complex social and political and economic issues, then those problems will be solved. That's a fact. I just came from the graduation ceremony and we conferred a variety of honorary degrees, and each person who received an honorary degree has in their own way, in their own field, genuinely solved or is in the process of solving a major problem. That's over to you now. That's on you now. And then once you're in these positions, as you inevitably will be in your career, of positions of influence and decision making, and answering the question of where am I needed most, I need you to do one more thing. I need you to always remember that behind every decision you make is a person. Many of you are going to go off to clerk. Behind every opinion that you help to craft is a person or a family whose lives will be changed because of that decision, or a client you serve, or a company that you work at. Maybe you'll go into business and there'll be a layoff that you have to make. It's impacting a family. So let that have you pause and think a little more carefully to make sure you're making the right decision. Now, it doesn't mean you can't make tough decisions. As governor, I make tough decisions every day. I've inherited a huge budget deficit, a failing economy. There are tough decisions to be made, and you will have to make those tough decisions. But what I ask you to do and what you need to do is have the courage and the principle to make these decisions based on what's right for the person or people that you serve, and not based on what's politically easy or advantages your own career. Because that's the easy path, and not the courageous or the principled or the humbled path. So we need you to answer your call to service, and remember as you go, at the end of every number and every case and every decision is a person. When I was working on the pension, which was arguably about as boring and mathematical and financial of a topic you could think of, I constantly would meet people who I didn't know, and they would grab me and they would say, first of all, they would say, "Oh, you're the pension lady." And then they would say, "Please do the right thing because my family's depending on it." Or other people would say, "Please fix that pension so we have enough money because my kid's school is falling apart." And it was hard to do. I had protesters, I had to have security for a period of time. But at the end of the day, when you do the right thing for the right reason, you'll always have that with you. And it does take courage to do that. So we are counting on you in a very real way to bring honesty and humility and compassion to your business and to your communities. And I will say to the few of you who maybe aren't sure what you want to do, there's a terrific new governor in Rhode Island looking for talent. So see me after, because I'll take you all, because I need the help. We're in the early stages of an economic comeback, and I need every bit of talent I can get. But anyway, I've been asked to say just a few words and to give you a blessing. The Dean Post said to give you a blessing. So I'm here. I couldn't be more excited for you. I'm sure you're filled with a little bit of nervousness and anxiety, and that's okay. You will find your way. You may meander your way. But I just want you to ask the question as you go, where am I needed? And in my case, it meant leaving a good career at the height of a good financial career to choose public service. And I don't know what your case will be. But if you find that moment of quiet and ask yourself, how can I take this Yale Law School degree and fulfill my duty to serve? I guarantee you, if you apply yourselves, although the professor doesn't know the answer to the solution of income equality, you will figure it out. Good luck, congratulations, and we're proud of you.
Thank you, Governor. And this concludes our ceremony, and I invite you all back to the courtyard of the law school for a champagne reception. See you there. Congratulations.